Hello viewers, in this video we'll look at two things. Number one, we'll look at evaluation of factorials and also expressing numbers in factorials. So let's say we have our question number one, which says evaluate the following. So for part one, we have 5 factorial. So to evaluate this, you start from 5, reduce it up to 1, so 5. So this means now it will be 5 factorial will be equal to 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. That's what we do. So now once we reach here, now we say 5 times 4, that's a 20. 20 times 3 is 60. 60 times 2, we get 120 as the answer. Then now moving to part 2, we have 6 factorial. So for 6 factorial, this can be written as 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So now let's multiply. So 6 times 5, it gives a 30. Yeah, then 30, we have 30 times 4. So 30 times 4, it gives 120. So 120 times 3, it gives, let's see, this is 6 there. It gives 360. So 360 times 2, it gives 720. Now 720 times 1, it will give us a 720. Then we move to part 3. So part 3, we have a 0 factorial. So 0 factorial, that's a product which is equal to just a 1. Okay. Then for part 4, we have, that is 7 factorial minus 2 open. Then here 5 factorial. So for us to evaluate this, the easiest way is you look at the bigger number with a factorial, which is a 7, and reduce it up to 5 factorial, this other number with a factorial. Okay, that's what you do. So you say 7, okay, times 6 times 5 factorial minus 2 open. Here we have a 5 factorial. That's what we have. So now once we reach here, now we're going to say 5 factorial is common, so factor out 5 factorial throughout, so that now we remain with 7 times 6 here, then minus a 2. So now we have 5 factorial open. 7 times 6, that's a 42, minus a 2. So now we have 5 factorial open. 42 minus 2, we get a what? A 40. Okay. So now we'll evaluate 5 factorial, which is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay. Then times 40. If you remember the first question, 5 factorial is 120. So we multiply it with what? A 40. So 120 times 40. Let's see what we get. So 0 times 0, 0. 0 times 2, 0. 0 times 1, okay, 0. Then we start with a 0. Then 4 times 0, 4. 0. 4 times 2, that's 8. Then 4 times 1, that's a 4. So here the answer becomes 4,800. So that's how you evaluate that. That's how you evaluate that. Before we move to the next one, I'll just add a bonus. So let's say the question says we have to evaluate, that is 5 factorial minus 4 factorial. So to evaluate this, you can't say 5 minus 4 for you to get a 1 factorial. It's wrong. What you do is you evaluate 5 factorial first. You say, okay, 5 times 4, okay, times 3 times 2 times 1, then minus, then 4 factorial to be 4 times 3, then times 2 times 1. So now 5 times 4, that's a 20, times 3 is 60, times 2 120, minus 4 times 3, that's a 12, times 2 we get a 20, a 24. Okay, So now we are subtracting, we are saying 120 minus 24. So we get a 1 from a 2. So here we have a 6, okay? Again a 1 there, so we have a 96. So the answer becomes 96. So that's how you handle such kind of questions. Also, if let's say you're given 4 factorial minus 3 factorial, it's the same. We know 4 factorial, that's a 24. Then 3 factorial, that's a 6. So 24 minus 6, it gives, that is 18. All right. So moving to where you have a fraction, how do you evaluate factorials where you have a fraction? Okay. So like for v, which is 35, we have 3 factorial over 2 factorial. So to evaluate such, you always look at the bigger number with a factorial and reduce it up to the smaller number. So meaning that we reduce 3 factorial up to 2 factorial. So you say 3, okay, times 2, then factorial over, that is 2 factorial. 2 factorial, 2 factorial cancels, the answer becomes a 3. Then for part 6, we have 4 factorial over 6 factorial. So let's see this. What we do is we just look at the bigger number with the factorial and reduce it up to the smaller number with the factorial. So here the bigger number with a factorial, that's a 6. So we reduce it up to 4. So it will be 6 times 5 times 4 factorial. Then on top we have a 4 factorial. 4 factorial and 4 factorial cancels. Now we have 1 on top over 6 times 5, that's a 30. So that becomes the answer. So when you say 6 factorial over 4 factorial, that's the inverse of that, which will give a 30. Right. So we move to now part 7. We have, that is 20 factorial over 18 factorial. So for this, we do the same. We reduce the bigger number, which is a 20 factorial, up to 18. So it will be 20, okay, times 19 times 18 factorial. Then we say over, that is now 18 factorial. So now this will give us 18 factorial and 18 factorial cancels. We just have 20 times 19. Okay, so for 20 times 19, we can multiply. We can multiply 20 times 19. So 20 times 19. So 9 times 0, 0. 9 times 2, 18. So 0, 1, 0 there, 2. So when we add, it is 380. So that becomes the answer. All right. So now we have part 8. That is, we have 100 factorial over 99 factorial. So for this, what we do is we just reduce 100 factorial up to 99. So over 99. This and that cancels. The answer becomes 100. Alright, then we move to part 9, where we have, that is 9 factorial over 6 factorial 3 factorial. This is what we have. So what we do, just identify the bigger number with a factorial and reduce it up to the next number to it, which is a 6. So meaning we'll reduce 9 up to 6 factorial and say 9, okay, times, that is an 8 times 7 times 6, then factorial over now 6 factorial 3 factorial. So now 6 factorial and 6 factorial can cancel. So now we have 9, okay, times 8, then times 7 over now 3 factorial can be written as 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, yeah, so that's how that can be written. So we can go ahead and say now 3 into 3, 1, 3 into 9, that's a 3, 2 into 2, 1, 2 into 8, that's a 4. So now we have 3, okay, times 4 times 7. So here 3 times 4, that's a 12 times 7, which gives 84. So 84 becomes the answer. Then for 10, what we have is 12 factorial minus 10 factorial over, that is a 9 factorial. Okay, so here since 9 factorial is the common denominator for whatever we have on our numerator, here we can split. So we're going to say this is 12 factorial over 9 factorial, okay, minus 10 factorial over 9 factorial. Once we do that, we can evaluate these separate, meaning we'll reduce 12 up to 9. So we say, okay, 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 factorial over 9 factorial. Then we're going to say, okay, minus, again here we're going to reduce 10 up to 9 factorial. So it will be 10, times 9 factorial over what? 9 factorial. So 9 factorial and 9 factorial cancels. Even here 9 factorial cancels. So we remain with 12 times 11 times 10. Okay, then minus 10. So the easiest, we can factor out 10 and we'll remain with 12 times 11 minus 1 here. So this means we can multiply 12 times 11. 1 times 2, we get a 2. Then 1 times 1, 1. Here 0. 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 1, 1. So 2 here, 3, 132. Okay. So now this gives 110 times 132 minus 1, which will give 10, times 130, 131, which will give 1310. So that would be the answer. Now moving to 11, we have 1 over, that is 3 factorial now, plus 1 over, that is now 4 factorial, plus 1 over, that is now 5 factorial. So here we get the common denominator first, and here whenever you're getting the common denominator for such, the common denominator becomes the bigger number with a factorial, which is a 5 factorial. So now we say 5 factorial now divide by a 3 factorial. So this means we'll reduce 5 up to 3 factorial. It becomes 5, okay, times 4 times 3, okay, factorial over 3, okay, factorial. So 3 factorial and 3 factorial cancels. Now we have a 20, okay. So now we get a 20, yeah, we get a 20, okay. Now, okay, plus, again, we say 5 factorial divided by 4 factorial, which will just give us a 5. So now we have a 5 plus 5 into 5, 1. So here we have 26 over, then 5 factorial means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So this gives 26 over, let's see, 5 times 4, 20, times 3, 60, times 2, 120. So let's see if we can reduce this further. 2 into 2, 1, 2 into 6, 3, over 2 into 12, 6, 0. So the answer becomes 13 over 30. Right, then we move to 12. We move to 12, okay. So 12 says we have to evaluate, that is 1 over 4 factorial plus 1 over a 5 factorial plus 1 over a 6 factorial, okay. So here we get the common denominator, like I said. So the common denominator becomes a number with a bigger factorial, which is now a 6 factorial. So that becomes the the common denominator now. So this means now we can start dividing. We say 6 factorial now over 4 factorial. So this means we reduce 6 up to 4. So 6 times 6 up to 4. So 6 times what? 5 times what? 4. Then times 3. So I'm saying we're reducing it up to a 4. Okay. So 4 factorial over, that is a 4 factorial. This and that cancels. Then here we have a 30. So now we say 30 times 1. So it gives 30 now, plus again it will be 6 factorial over a 5 factorial, which gives a 6. So plus 6 plus there, it will give us a 1. So we have 37 over 6 factorial. It means 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So this means now 6 times 5, that's a 30. Okay, now 30 times 4, let's see, it gives 120. Okay, 120 times times 3, it gives 360. So times 2, so 370. So of 37 over, over 720. So that becomes the answer. So now moving to 8. So for 8, we have 6 factorial plus 5 factorial minus 4 factorial over 4 factorial. So for this, what we do is, you can't add and subtract, no. What you do is you split, because 4 factorial is the common denominator for whatever we have on top. Okay, so therefore it becomes 6 factorial over a 4 factorial. We are splitting again, plus, that is 5 factorial over 4 factorial, then minus, that is now 4 factorial over 4 factorial. So here we evaluate 6 factorial over 4 factorial, of which to evaluate it, we reduce 6 factorial up to 4. So we say 6 times 5, then it times 4 factorial over a 4 factorial, then plus 5 times what? Now 4 factorial over 4 factorial minus 4 and 4 cancels, that's a 1. So here 4 factorial cancels, we have 6 times 5 plus 4 factorial cancels, we have a 5 minus what? 1. So 6 times 5 in 30. Okay, plus 5 minus 1. So here 35 minus 1, which gives a 34. So now we move to expressing numbers in factorial form now. So for part 1, what we have is we have 1 times t times 3 times 4 times 5. So these we can write them in descending order, starting with the bigger number, which is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Now here you check if there's any number missing in between 5 and 1, of which you don't have any. So this can just be written as 5 factorial. Then part 2, we have 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. So this can just be written as 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2, then you can just say 1, which gives just a 6 factorial. Now we have part 3. We have 8 times 7 times times 6. So what you check for is, you're going to check if there's any number missing in between 8 and 6, of which you don't have any. So now what to do is, we'll start with the bigger number, which will be the denominator 80 with a factorial. Now it will be over, you say the last number is 6. So you say 6 minus 1, that's a 5. So 5 factorial. Then we have part 4. For part 4, what we have is we have 10 times 9 times 8 times 7. That's what we have. So here what we'll do is we do the same between 10 and 7. We don't have any number that is missing. So what we do is 10, we'll have 10, okay, factorial, the bigger number over. Now 7 minus 1, we get a 6 with the factorial. Then we have part 5. We have 100 times 99 times what? 98. So what we do is you check between 100 and 98. Do we have any number missing? We don't have any. So meaning this becomes now 100 factorial over. So since we're ending at 98 and not at 1, so you say 98 minus 1, it gives 97. Now factorial. Then now for part 7, what we have is a 200 times 199. So for this one, between 200 and 199, you don't have any number missing. So 200 will start with a factorial over. Now 199 minus 1, that's 198. Now factorial. So that becomes the answer. Then for 8, we have, that is 10 times 8 times 6 times what? 4 times what? 2. So for these numbers, what you always check for is if you have any numbers missing in between. So between 10 and 2, we can see there are numbers missing. You can see between 10 and 8, you have a 7 missing. Between 10 and 8, you have a 7 missing here. Then between 8 and 6, we have between 10 and 8, we have a 9 missing. Then between 8 and 6, we have a 7 missing. Okay. Yeah. Then between 6 and 4, we have a 5 missing. Then 4 and 2, we have a 3 missing. So for these numbers that are missing, what you look for now is you're going to check when you look at these numbers. These are multiples of 2. Okay. So meaning we have somehow the common difference, which is a 2. So we factor out a 2. Now we have a 5 times a 4 times a 3 times a 2, now times 1 when you factor out a 2. So 2 in factorial form can be written as 2 factorial. Okay, because you want each number to have a factorial. So now for 5 up to 1, that can be written as 5 factorial. So this becomes the correct answer. Then moving to 9, we have, that is 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, and what? A 2. So these dots represent multiplication. This means it is 12 times 10 times 8 times 6 times 4 times a 2. So here we can also check these are still multiples of 2. So we still have the common difference at 2. So we'll factor out a 2. Then we'll have a 6 times 5 times 4 here times 3 times 2 times 1. So 2 can be written as 2 factorial. Then 6 up to 1, that's a 6 factorial. So that becomes the answer. Then for part 10, what we have is 1 over 6 times 5 times what? 4. So we have a fraction without any factorials, and we have to express it in factorial form. So what you do first is you're going to change and say 1, then we'll say divide by, open. Now 6 times 5 times what? 4. That's the other way we can write it. So now once we reach here, the next thing that we do is say this is 1 now. Okay. Divide by, open. Between 6 and 4, no number is missing. So we'll start with a 6 with a factorial over. Why do divide? Because we're ending at 4. So 4 minus 1, that's a 3 factorial. So now what we have is 1. We can introduce the multiplication symbol, meaning that to switch these 3 factorial will be on top, then 6 factorial down. So now we have 3 factorial over 6c factorial. So this is what we have. And we've come to the end of the session.